All right, today we're going to take a fascinating journey into a part of your own body you see every day, but maybe don't fully understand, your pectoral region. We're going way beyond the surface to uncover this incredible network of muscles, tissues, and glands that make up your chest. And you'll see why knowing this map is so important. So let's dive in.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics of what the pectoral region even is. Then we'll dig into the fascia, the muscles, and the anatomy of the breast, including the mammary gland. And we'll wrap it all up by connecting the dots to see why this entire area is so critical for our health.
First things first, let's get our bearings and define exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so the pectoral region, it's basically the front of your chest, everything on either side of your sternum or breastbone. You can think of it as the canvas for all the amazing and complex structures we're about to explore. And believe me, this region is absolutely packed. We've got layers of something called fascia, these powerful pectoral muscles, the breast, a whole web of blood vessels and nerves, and it's all sitting right on top of your protective rib cage. We're going to peel back each one of these layers to see how it all fits together. All right, let's go one layer deeper and talk about fascia. Now, I want you to imagine a thin but super strong sort of shrink wrap that covers, supports, and separates all of your muscles and organs. That's fascia. In a lot of ways, it's our body's own internal scaffolding. And right here in the chest, we have the pectoral fascia. It's this tough, fibrous sheet of tissue that specifically covers the big chest muscle, the pectoralis major, and its job is to provide essential support and keep everything neatly in its place. And you know, this fascia is so much more than just a simple sheet. It's a really complex, interconnected web. It anchors itself to your collarbone and your breastbone, it wraps around multiple different muscles, and it even forms the floor and the shape of your armpit. That little hollow under your arm, that's formed by a part of this fascia. It's a perfect example of how everything in our bodies is so intelligently connected. Now for the real powerhouses of the chest, the pectoral muscles. These are the engines that drive so many of the movements we do every single day, without even thinking about it. First up is the star of the show, the pectoralis major. This is the biggest and the most superficial muscle in the area. It's what most of us just call the pecs. It's this huge, fan-shaped muscle that covers a lot of ground on your upper chest. But the pectoralis major isn't working alone. Tucked right underneath it is its smaller partner, the pectoralis minor. As you can see, the major is large and fan-shaped, sitting right on top. The minor, on the other hand, is small, triangular, and it lies deep beneath. It's a perfect illustration of how our body layers different muscles to work together in the same space. So what does the pectoralis major actually do? Well, it adducts your arm, which is the motion of bringing your arm back toward the center of your body, kind of like when you're giving someone a hug. It also rotates your arm inward. That's the powerful movement you need to throw a ball or push a heavy door. These are fundamental movements we do all day long. Okay, let's shift our focus to another key structure sitting right on top of all this muscle, the breast. This is a really complex and vital part of the pectoral region's anatomy. And here's a fact that might actually surprise you. The breast is technically a modified sweat gland. It's there in both sexes, but in females, it develops into a key accessory organ for the reproductive system, intricately designed for lactation. Pretty amazing, right? So on the outside, we see three main things. You've got the nipple, which is the exit point for milk through tons of tiny ducts. Then there's the areola, that pigmented circle around it. And on the areola, you might see these little bumps called Montgomery's tubercles. These are actually specialized glands that secrete oil to lubricate and protect the area, and they often get more noticeable during pregnancy. Okay, let's continue our journey inward. We're moving past the external stuff to explore the internal framework and the functional tissue of the mammary gland itself. So you might be wondering, what holds everything in place and gives the breasts its shape? Well, the answer is this amazing network of fibrous bands called the suspensory ligaments of Cooper. These ligaments are like an internal scaffold, anchoring the gland to the skin and the deep fascia below, giving it crucial structure and support. But these ligaments are so much more than just support. They're actually vital health detectives. As this quote from our source explains, when cancer cells invade these ligaments, they can shorten and tighten up, which pulls on the skin from the inside. This is what can cause that characteristic puckering or dimpling that is such a key warning sign of breast cancer. And what about the breast's primary function in females? Well, this slide maps out the pathway of milk perfectly. Production starts in these tiny clusters called alveoli. These guys are grouped into about 15 to 20 lobes. From there, each lobe is drained by a duct. These ducts then widen into a little storage area called a sinus, before they all converge and finally exit through the nipple. It's just a perfectly designed biological system. And that brings us to our final and honestly probably the most important section, the clinical connections. Let's tie all this anatomy together to understand why knowing it is so critical for our health. 70%. Just look at that number. What could it possibly represent? Well, it's a figure that is absolutely vital to understanding breast health.
That's 70%. It represents the vast majority of the lymphatic drainage from the breast. This fluid, which is part of your immune system, flows mainly to a group of lymph nodes in your armpit, known as the axillary nodes. You can think of this pathway as the region's superhighway.
And this chart just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? You can see that huge 70% chunk flowing to the axillary nodes. Sure, other routes exist, like to the nodes near your breastbone, but the main flow is definitely towards the armpit. And why does this one drainage pathway matter so much? Because that lymphatic superhighway, it's also a primary route for cancer cells to escape the breast and spread to other parts of the body. This is exactly why checking the axillary lymph nodes is such a crucial part of diagnosing and staging breast cancer. See how it all connects? The ligaments can signal a problem, and these pathways explain how it might spread. So, there you have it. We've toured the entire pectoral region, from the supportive fascia and powerful muscles all the way to the intricate structures of the breast and its vital lymphatic pathways. This isn't just abstract anatomy from a textbook. It's a detailed map of a part of your own body. So the question I want to leave you with is, how does knowing this map change how you see your own health?